Are we live? We're live. Welcome to Good Thinking Live. Welcome everyone streaming from LinkedIn and from YouTube Live. For those of you new to Good Thinking, we are here most Mondays, 9 a.m. Pacific time here in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. And you can subscribe. Go to YouTube and find Becky Saltzman and hit that subscribe and hit that bell notification. And if you're coming in from LinkedIn Live, where most of you are probably coming from, let us know wherever you're coming from, who you are and where you're from. This is a show that gives us all a little bit of time away from what to think so we can focus on how to think, metacognition, thinking about our thinking. So welcome everyone who enjoys that 30-minute reprieve. Today we are talking about how much should you care what other people think? And there's kind of a different way of thinking about this. So we're going to reframe this. So let us know and definitely participate. As you know, we often start out with a question. So I'm going to start out with a question. Do you want to be independent minded? Yes or no? Yes or no? So if you're here letting us know who you are and where you're from, you can answer, do you want to be independent minded? And if you want to be independent minded, the question is, why? Why do you want to be independent minded? Where is everyone? We're not seeing anyone streaming. We usually see all kinds of people streaming on. That makes me worried that maybe like it's not working or whatever. Let me see. The screen is blank. I think the camera is blocked. No, it isn't. Okay, that's the problem. Let's do this. There's something going on. Probably the camera's not blocked. Okay, so maybe the camera got unblocked. Hi, Servan from Istanbul. If you guys think, welcome. So we've got one person streaming on, but I've got other people sending me text messages. Maybe it's working now. I don't know. There might have been a little glitch with StreamYard. So Servan says, yes, they want to be independent minded. Cindy says yes. Lisa says yes. Chris says yes. Okay. So Chris says, why? Why? Freedom. Barkley says, hi from DC. Stephen, hi from the 45th parallel. So I guess we had a little late start to the streaming. I didn't start late, but sometimes it starts late. Ray from Philadelphia. Sarah, yes. So let us know who you are and where you're from, and whether you want to be independent minded. And we'll see if at the end you really do, because that could have something. Let me just make sure I don't have any other problems. Subtitle, but no videos. That's a problem. I don't know why there's no video streaming. Let me remove myself from this. Okay. Is it working? Connection is a bit dodgy. Oh man, I'm so sorry. This is not, I don't know what's happening. We've had problems with the internet, and this was really, really good. So if you can't see, if you can only hear me, but you can't see me, say, I can hear you, but I can't see you. Tell me, because I have no idea of knowing. I can see all of your comments. Sri Lanka, Kokila from Sri Lanka, glad to meet you. Umar, sometimes. We've got Daniel from Kenya. And this is John. Oh, John Daniel. Okay, from Kenya. Welcome. Ray, I saw the video the whole time. So I don't know. Some people are seeing it. Some people aren't. I don't know. We're just going to, thanks, Ray. As long as we know some people can see the video, we're good. If you can't see the video, I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening with the streaming. Servan, let's see. Independent mind is increasing productivity. Video and subtitles seem okay. Thank you. I thank you for letting me know. I can hear you, but not see you. All right. So that's a weird thing. Maybe it's because we're streaming so close to one another. Maybe, I don't know. Well, it sounds like there's a little bit of a problem in the same area streaming, but let's get to it. If you want to be, because it sounds like everyone said, you want to be independent minded, are you comfortable resisting being told what to think? Are you comfortable resisting being told what to think? Let me know. Yeah, you're comfortable. And how do you see that? Like if you're told this is how you should think, and if you're this kind of person, you should think this way, or if you want to be kind of like-minded with us, you should think that way. Are you comfortable resisting being told what to think? And I want to say something really quickly before. It is not necessary for everyone to be independent-minded, and most of us are not. But if you are doing or want to do the kind of work that requires independent-mindedness, then you may have your bar might have to rise up a little bit compared to the rest of us in terms of how you calibrate how much you should listen to what other people think. Okay, thanks, Beth. Thank you for letting me know. So we've got some people that can hear but not see, and some people that can see both. So I'm just going to remove the banner so we can focus on the comments, and let's get to it. Are you comfortable resisting? And Servan says, I'm comfortable resisting. Sometimes. I think that answer is a legit answer. I don't think we can always resist. It might put us in a precarious situation. But I think that's a hint that sometimes is a real answer. I mean, it's a real answer. But here's the conundrum. Not caring at all might make you a sociopath. Like, I don't care what anyone thinks. That makes you a sociopath. But caring too much can make you extremely unhappy. So the key is to understand, well, first of all, if you decide you want to be independent-minded, don't just say it because it sounds good, but really understand, why do you want to be independent-minded? Because you don't want other people controlling your thoughts? Well, that happens. I mean, you don't even know where your next thought comes from, let alone where my next thought comes from, right? So do you really need to be independent-minded, and how independent-minded? It sounds good, but it's hard. We're going to talk about what you have to do if you really decide you want to be independent-minded, and it may not be something you want to do. So caring too much can make you unhappy, extremely unhappy. There's even diseases we'll get into. But caring not at all makes you a sociopath. So that's a conundrum. All right, so here's the next question. I'm going to say hi to a couple more people. We say, Chris says, I think the days of the thought police have gone away, but with the restrictions that fact checkers put on our social media, I'm not sure. Okay, so are fact checkers related to the thought police? Is that something that we're thinking, like if you check a fact that something actually happened or didn't happen? I don't know. I mean, even the way two people perceive the same event can be wildly different. So there may be a point with that. All right, Liza, I'm open for opinions and suggestions, but not likely to be told exactly what to do. And I'm totally okay with putting my point forward. Fantastic. And I think that it's easier to measure whether you comply with being told what to do than whether you comply with being told what to think. Because I don't know if we really know where our thoughts come from. It seems like we do. But what's your next thought? If your next thought is about what film you would like to see if you were on a desert island, what film, and you could have one film, what film would that be? Whether it's, Saving Private Ryan or Slumdog Millionaire or whatever, what film you would want to see. I'm not sure that you choose your next thought. I mean, would you have thought that if I didn't say that? So this is kind of just thinking about your thinking is what we do. And we're going to get into how to know, how to calibrate how much you should care about what others think. Now, there's a difference between how much you should know what others care about things and how much you should care about what others think about you. There's a difference. All right. So, hey, Abdurrachid, the key is balance. Absolutely. Fantastic. Calibration. I totally agree. All right. So here's the next question. This is the question I posted on the post for the show. And this is courtesy of Warren Buffett. This is Warren Buffett's little test. You ready to take Warren Buffett's little test? Okay. Which would you rather be? A, the world's greatest lover, but everyone you know and everyone that knows you and everyone thinks you're the world's worst lover, but you're really the world's greatest lover. Or B, the world's worst lover, but everyone thinks that you're the world's best lover. Which would you rather be? A or B? And be honest. Like, you might think, oh, it's a better answer to know whatever. But think about it. I mean, if everyone thinks you're a horrible lover, what does that mean? And how do you even prove it? So anyway, what would you choose? A or B? A or B? Put it in the chat, because that's what is Warren Buffett's test for whether you care more about what you know about yourself and what you're capable of, which he calls your inner scorecard, or whether you care more about what others think or what they think you're capable of, your outer scorecard. And to ignore the outer scorecard because you think, I don't care what other people think. Is that really true? Is that true? I mean, I know it feels like something we should say is true, but is that really true? All right. So Beth says, I listen to the person's opinion, but will reject their suggestion if it goes against my values. Okay. Excellent. That's good. Okay. So Indubala says A. Indubala will rather be the world's best lover, but everyone thinks horrible lover. But then my question is, how do you prove you're the world's best lover? Anyway, so that's his test of being independent minded. Does anyone else want to take a brave enough? I'm going to give a rubber chicken because you're brave enough to say. It seems like A should be the right answer, but really, is it true? Is it true? And Ray says, does everyone include my partner? If so, how could I be best and they think I'm the worst? That's kind of what I was thinking about this. That's legit. That's legit. Exactly. So that gets to the issue where if you don't care what other people think at all, it makes you a sociopath. But if you care too much, you could have, or you could come down with allodexiphobia. Allodexiphobia. All right. So Helen says, should I really care? It's not whether you should really care, but if you had to choose one or the other, I mean, that's a legit question. Should I really care? Maybe you shouldn't care at all. But then if you had to choose one, that's his little test. Ray Givler, Jedi mind trick. It really is a Jedi mind trick, but it's also a legitimate, that gets to the legitimate root of this whole conversation. Honest to myself. Sheila says A. I like that people are being honest about what you're being honest about what it's like. There's no right answer to this. Abdurrashid says, I would provide a third option, to be worst or best and provide the world with a question mark. That is true, but that's not the question. So that would make it easier, but that's not the question. And I didn't come up with it, so I can't. If I came up with it, I would add Abdurrashid's suggestion. How many of you want to admit to having allodexiphobia? That is a fear of other people's opinions that leads you to care so much about what others think about you that it can become debilitating. Have you ever known anyone like that? Have you ever known anyone to have allodexiphobia? Maybe it's allodoxophobia, I think is how it's pronounced. Anyone know anyone who has had that? What about compassion fatigue? Compassion fatigue refers to that physical, emotional, and psychological impact that comes from helping others, like often through experiences, helping them through stress or trauma. And it can be online because there's a lot of stress and trauma being shared online. And then your compassion, and you spend all this time and you just start to feel, and you feel guilty about it, but you start to feel compassion fatigue. Think about this is what happens when you care too much about others and you try to help them in stressful situations. And in the process, you kind of start to lose interest because you can only give so much. You can only give so much. Yeah. So Liza says, sometimes even I do have that. Exactly. And I think that's a legit, I like that, we have to admit it, whether it's the fear or it's the compassion fatigue must be a hard phobia to admit to having. Yeah. Allodexiphobia would be hard to admit to having. And that's hilarious, by the way, if you think about it. That comment, actually, that deserves a little bit of rubber chicken. I mean, all these comments deserve rubber chickens. Abdurrashid says, you can control what people don't know about you, but you struggle on how people perceive what you said about yourself. Sure. And then you're caring about, and there's a difference. You see, now when you think about how much you should care, when you came onto this show today and what were you expecting? How much should you care about what people think about in general? Or were you thinking it was more about how much should you care what people think about you? Because those are sometimes two different but related things. All right. What about burnout? Now, compassion fatigue is different than burnout. Can you think about that different? When you experience burnout, you just lose the ability to empathize or give to others. Burnout comes from work stress and being overworked. It may not even be, and it may just be like this all the social media that comes and this, and I got to worry about this, and you got to worry about that. And if you are engaging with a global audience like we are on Good Thinking, you can realize that something that we should be focusing on here really isn't relevant across the world. And you're being told that you got to focus this, and then halfway across the world, people are like, we've got other fish to fry. And you start going, and you burn out. Different than compassion, where you're helping someone and you're helping them and helping them and helping them, helping them. And you then start to internalize their stress. And then you probably don't have allodexiphobia because you start to not care. And those are the three different things. So think about a position. Think about a position. Now, just think for yourself about a position you take on an idea or policy. Think about something that you disagree with some people, or maybe all your friends agree, but you know they don't agree. Because any issue that doesn't have one universally set point where everyone agrees has a potential to be controversial. So what does that mean? Any issue can be controversial. So take something in your mind that you hold a strong position. You even know it to be true. All right. Then you pick something that you don't really care about. So something you know to be true and something you don't really care about. Other people care about it, but you don't care about it. Do you have something in mind? So get those two things in mind, because we're going to do a little thought experiment. So if you've got the one thing you really care about and the other thing some people care, but you don't care that much, you don't want to admit it. You don't have to say what it is unless you get really brave. If you're brave enough to share each of your positions, your strongly held belief and your loosely held kind of like belief, or you kind of don't care, but you kind of think this, share it in the chat. That would be like next level. I really believe this. I don't really care about that. Or I don't really know. I don't have a strong opinion on that. All right. So if you're willing to put it out there in your mind, or at least, or in the chat, here's the question. Do you put it, when you put your positions out there, like you put it on social media, or you put it in the chat, or you say it to a bunch of friends, are you hoping to find enough people who agree with you? Are you hoping to find people who disagree with you? Maybe you love a good argument. Are you hoping to find people who will outwardly disagree with you? Or are you hoping to find people who suggest that you should care more or less about what you care more or less about? What are you hoping for when you share? Go on to LinkedIn and see people putting opinions, oh, you should this, or you should that, or we should think this, or we should think that. Why are they doing that? I mean, not why are they doing that, but like, why do you think they're doing that? Are they trying to get people to agree with them? Are they trying to get people to disagree with them? Are they trying to, why are we putting this stuff out there? Because we're trying to, it definitely has to do with how much you care about other people. Why are we doing this show? Right? So there is a certain amount of caring, and then you have to be honest about what you're hoping to have happen with other people's thoughts and actions, right? So how much do you care that others agree with you about ideas you don't care that much about? That's a weird one. How much do you care that others agree with you or disagree with you about things you really care about? So your degree of caring seems to be, or might be, correlated with how much you care about what other people think. Would you say that's right or wrong? Anyway, does that make sense? Confusing? Okay. Mohsin, I'm afraid of commenting about my phobia here, wondering what others will feel about me. Absolutely. And that's legit. Thank you for being honest about it. And of course, so sometimes we say, oh, authenticity. Well, yeah, to a degree, right? We don't necessarily want people to think that, oh my gosh, I have a terrible fear of something that is ridiculous. Maybe you could say a fear of spiders and people wouldn't judge you, but something else, people might judge you. Chris says, yes, but once you do, that's a good, once you do, some of the mental burden of having that phobia will have been released. That's a good point. That's the whole kind of basis of cognitive behavioral therapy. Helen says, I'm hoping for people to share my views. And that's legit. I'm going to be like, that's legit. That is totally legit. You put stuff out there because you're hoping that people share your views. All right. Now here's the question. I love you said that. Why are you hoping that? Why? Why are you hoping that? What are you hoping? Abdurrahman says probably people who seek to prospect from a network with similar reasoning about the same topic. Absolutely. It's fun. It's fun to talk about things it's fun to do this show with people who like to think about their thinking. I love it. All right. So, okay. If your partner outwardly agrees with you, is that more or is that less exciting than having a big influencer agree with you? Let's say you have a chance for the world to know something really good that your partner appreciates about you, or something good that someone more famous whom you've never met thinks about you. Like, let's say you had an opportunity to make a post on social media and you had a chance to share something your partner really agrees with you on, or thinks, agrees with you, or thinks you're right about, or something someone famous thinks you're right about. B, which would be more enticing to share? Like a picture with you and your partner agreeing on something, and you and someone famous agreeing with something. Okay? Because if you'd rather share your partner or this, that might give an indication of how much you really care about what people think about you and who. I don't know. What do you think? Who will admit? Who will admit? All right. So if someone wants to admit A, I'd really like to share that my partner agrees with me, or B, I'd really like to share that someone famous agrees with me, put it in the chat. Let's just see. And then you think to yourself, why? Why is it this versus this? Who is willing to share how you identify? I identify as an aging American woman. There are other labels too. I like to think of identifying as someone who values good thinking, and I don't, maybe some people say, well, you're not aging. Yes, I am. That's how I identify. And I'm glad with it. I'm always corrected. Oh, no, you're not old. I'm like, you're making an assumption that that's not how I identify. So who is brave enough to share how they identify? All right. So, how much would I care that they didn't? Now, if they said to me, I don't see you identifying as someone who's aging, I probably wouldn't I wouldn't care that much. What about someone says, I don't see you identify as a woman? Would I care? Maybe a little bit more. What about an American? I don't see you as someone who identifies as an American. I don't buy that. I probably wouldn't care what people thought in that regard until it started to be like, so you can't be let back in the country because your passport's not authentic or something like that. I mean, that kind of deprived me of some of the privileges of that identity. And that's really where I would start to care what people think about me, where it starts to impact what I can do and not do. Right? All right. So Matthew says, I hope people are being honest. Abdurrahman says, this case is susceptible to confirmation bias. Yes. Okay. So comparing ourselves to others is normal, but it becomes maladaptive when it's based on suspicion, rivalry, envy, possessiveness. Jealous people may over-idealize others whom they perceive to be more talented or competent or intelligent. And in doing so, we debilitate ourselves. When we care so much about what other people think, it can become debilitating. So how do you calibrate effectively and healthily and in a way that promotes flourishing? Well, there's 10 signs that you may care too much. I'm going to go through those 10 signs. And in the last few minutes, we're going to talk about what we can do to calibrate more accurately. So bear with, we'll go quickly. Act locally, think globally. Okay. I expect a discussion to hear their experiences, sharing their solutions, maybe their insights. Excellent. Keep them coming. All right, here, let's go through. You guys tell me if you agree or disagree. Number one, these are signs you may care too much about what others think, too much. If your judgment of yourself, like the actual core of who you are, like if you feel great about yourself because other people tell you you're great, we don't normally think about that as being a sign we care too much. We mostly think if someone says negative things and we care too much, that means we care too much. But what about positive things? If we care too much, like our day is made when someone gives us a attaboy or attagirl or whatever, and we're devastated if someone says something about us that needs correction. That kind of how we perceive ourselves is so dramatically influenced by how other people kind of tell us, good or bad. That might be a sign we care too much. What about this one? You constantly try to guess what people are thinking about you. Now, it's good to think about what people are thinking, to kind of be empathetic or to understand, or if you're negotiating, whatever. But if you keep yourself always busy and living in your own mindless world about what other people are thinking, oh, what are they thinking? What are they thinking? That's another sign. What about you change your emotional states in response to comments you receive? That's related to the first one. Like, I'm in a good mood today. And you think, why am I in a good mood today? And you say, oh, because someone said something nice to me. Or I'm in a bad mood today because someone said something bad to me. So these are all signs where your calibration may be a little off. You strive to please, or you strive to get a reaction out of everyone. Like if I go on this show and no one reacts, there's two things that I worry about. One, is my Wi-Fi down? Is my connection screwed up? I mean, I would have no way of knowing. But I might think, maybe this is a topic people aren't interested in. And that would be good to know. I mean, that would be realistic. But if the first thought was, I didn't even think about the Wi-Fi, I didn't even think about the content. I was like, people hate me. They're not here because they hate me. That may be a sign that I care too much about what people think. And it's distracting me from the truth, which is my Wi-Fi is down. So you can see how that can get in the way. Honestly, A. Okay. Excellent. Cindy, I'm sorry. Honestly, and I've gone, so there's a delay. So I don't even know what that is in response to. So I'm sorry. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, no, I do. Imposter syndrome. Exactly. Imposter syndrome. One day I'll tell you the story. If you ask me before the end to remind you of how I got over imposter syndrome in a minute, I'll share it with you. It's hilarious. Okay. So what about this? No matter how small a decision is, you can't make a decision. You cannot make even small decisions. That's a sign. How about this? You become a social chameleon and you try to fit into the personalities and members of your in-group. So you're here, you're at this thing, and oh yeah, I like that kind of music, and I wear these kind of clothes, and I like this kind of food, and I do go on these kinds of marches, and then you go to this group, and you're this. Those are the kinds of things. What about whenever something goes wrong, no matter whose fault it is, you take responsibility and blame and suffer unnecessarily. Like no one shows up to my show, the Wi-Fi is down, but instead I think, no, I'm a horrible person. I must have done something technically wrong. Well, or so I have bad personality and no one wants to show up. That could be, again, how about this? You compare yourself with others and you look at social media and you feel like you only wish you could do what they're doing or experience what they're doing, but you have this nagging sense of wishing that they weren't experiencing so much greatness, regardless of what happens with you. Like you would rather them not be able to go on their fabulous vacation, regardless of what happens with you. I know people like that. Have those thoughts ever crept into your mind? That means that you need to recalibrate a little bit. And we're going to get into the recalibration in the last 2 minutes. And this is the last one. You think about how others might react to what you say and what you do. So you constantly care and you think too much. You actually end up kind of living on eggshells. What if I say this? Will I be offended? Will I be this? Will I be accepted? So you're living on eggshells. All right. So if you want to be your best and perform at a high level, this fear of people's opinions may be holding you back. So when you think about what others think to the point where it devolves into comparing yourself to others and you are handing over the steering wheel of your life and allowing them to drive your behavior, to drive your thoughts, to control your mind. All right. So here's what you can do. Let's get to it. What do you think of this? What do you think of this statement? Do you agree with it or not agree with it? Okay. If you wouldn't invite the person into your home, you shouldn't invite them into your head. What about that one? You wouldn't invite them into your home. Don't invite them into your head. Do you like it? What's right with it? It seems kind of a fun thing. I like those little, but then you have to kind of dissect it. And what might be wrong with it? Because someone might be genuinely plotting to do something wrong to you, and they're the exact type of person that you'd never invite to your home. But you better pay attention to what they think and plan about you. So sometimes these really fun little idioms and little sayings seem really good, but when you dissect it, you're like, that's not good thinking. So I'm not sure about that one. What about this? All right, here's the big one. Now we're going to get into the meat. I'm going to go 2 minutes over because I really want to give you this and see what you think. All right. Most of you said at the beginning of the show that you want to be independent minded. All right. Are you willing, yes or no, to be less aware of conventional wisdom? Are you willing to be less aware of what everyone out there thinks? Like, give up social media forever. Are you willing to be less aware? How much less aware of conventional beliefs? Because independent mindedness is not facilitated by following conventional beliefs. All right. It's hard to be a conformist if you don't know what you're supposed to conform to. So would you feel anxious not knowing what other people think? What about a little less? What about turning down under knowing those conventional beliefs? All right. So Stephen says, disagree. Important to protect yourself against bad people, which requires letting them into your head. I totally agree. I agree with that. All right. So I have some stories I was going to tell you when we ran out of time, and I'm so sorry, but here's how to benefit from negative feedback, because some negative feedback is worth paying attention to. And how do you know whether negative feedback is worth paying attention to or not? Start with curiosity. You have to start by asking what part is true and what part is not true, not starting to figure out why they say what they say, but starting to really dissect the contents, not the contents of their character, the contents of what they say. Once you find the valuable feedback, you can divide up the big feedback into manageable chunks that you can start to address. So, for example, if someone said something like, I don't like the Good Thinking show, I don't like Becky. Well, then, some people's immediate response could be, oh, well, you're just this, or you're just that, or whatever. But what if instead I said, okay, let's look at that. What do you not like about it? And you divide it into chunks. Now, if you said something like, I don't like the deep thinking, well, then I don't really care about your feedback, because that's not what this is about. It's totally fine. You shouldn't like it. You shouldn't be here. You should be doing something else, right? So you have to start with what you're not. You have to know that what you stand for, whether it's products or your business or whatever, you have to know who's not your audience. So I'll tell you this one little story if you want to stick around. I think this really helps, because if you focus on what you're capable of now, you can improve yourself, and you make little tiny goals. Like, you compare yourself yesterday to today and today to tomorrow instead of you to all these other people, then you can start to progress. But you have to also know, if you're putting yourself out there in any way, business, ideas, whatever, you have to know who your ideas are not for. I mean, I get asked a lot of times about general leadership stuff. And that's not, general leadership is not, it's not what I do. It's not what I do. So if you did, or inspirational, whatever. So if someone says, oh, I wanted you to come and talk about, the power of positive thinking or something like that, like, oh, whatever. That's not my expertise. So I'd be like, that's not, maybe I would think it would be interesting to take it apart, but it's not what I do. So you have to know what you stand for, so that when people criticize you, you can see, are there someone you should listen to or someone you should ignore? And if there's someone that you should listen to, but they're not telling you what you want to hear, then it's time to dissect. Dissect it into little chunks, because the goal is to be better each day. The goal is to value just the right amount from the right people. And that's a hard thing. It's not to ignore and just say, oh, you're a hater. That's not what this is. Not at all. Because thinking about what matters to you without comparing yourself to others, it's hard. It's really hard not to play by someone else's scoreboard, especially when what others are doing is being thrown in our faces and social media and everything all the time. It's really hard not playing by someone else's scoreboard, but focusing on where you stand relative to others is so easy. It's so easy to do. It's also so addicting. The best you can do by playing on someone else's scoreboard is winning the wrong game. So you don't have to be precious with yourself. You can make your own game hard or not, but you only get one life. So write your own book, write your own game, play on your own scoreboard, and calibrate how much you care accordingly. So hope that helped. Hope that made sense. Got a couple more comments. Would not be looking deep into the negative arguments before you just shut it out. Exactly. But maybe you should. Depends on your scoreboard.